What started as a harmless joke has now turned into a full-blown storm that's got Ice Cube, 50 Cent, Aries Spears, and even Tiffany Haddish's name floating all around social media. This is not just another celebrity disagreement. This one's got shade, old wounds, and some serious Hollywood tension. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see exactly why everyone's talking about how Aries Spears might have crossed the wrong man's line this time. So don't even think about clicking off because it's about to get heated. Now, let's start with what really set things off. Aries Spears, who's known for his stand-up comedy and wild impressions, decided to take another jab during an interview. He brought up Ice Cube, yes, that Ice Cube, the man who went from NWA to blockbuster movies to building his own sports league. Aries claimed that Cube hasn't been the same since his music days, saying he's too commercial now, too Hollywood, and even joked that Cube doesn't stand on what he used to rap about. Now that right there was enough to set social media on fire. Because if you know Ice Cube, you know he doesn't play about his legacy or his respect. The man built his empire from scratch, coming straight from Compton, and to have someone clown him for making power moves, well, that's a dangerous move. It didn't take long before the clip went viral. People were tagging Cube left and right, asking him to respond. But before Ice Cube even had the chance, guess who stepped in? 50 Cent. And when 50 speaks, you already know it's not going to be quiet or polite. He came out swinging, posting online that Aries Spears better watch his mouth when he talks about Cube. 50 basically reminded everyone that Ice Cube paved the way for so many artists and actors, and disrespecting him was like disrespecting the foundation of hip-hop itself. And when 50 says something like that, the internet listens. But here's the thing, Aries didn't back down. He fired back saying that 50 Cent is just defending his Hollywood buddies. He said people can't take a joke anymore, that he's just speaking truth about how fake the industry is. But at this point, it wasn't about jokes anymore. 50 Cent clapped back again saying, ain't nobody joking when they mention legends like Cube. That man earned his respect. Keep it cute before you end up regretting it. And that's when people started realizing, oh yeah, this just got real. Now, what makes this even crazier is that Aries Spears has a history of getting himself into drama. Remember when he went at Lizzo for no reason, calling her out in that wild interview that had the whole internet dragging him? Or the time he got into it with Tiffany Haddish over their old sketch that resurfaced and brought a wave of controversy. Yeah, Aries has a way of stirring the pot and then acting surprised when it boils over. So when he decided to come for Ice Cube, someone who's loved, respected, and feared in the industry, people knew he might have finally met his match. Meanwhile, Ice Cube stayed silent for a minute, which actually made things even more intense. Because when Cube doesn't talk, that usually means he's watching, waiting, and letting the noise grow. People online started speculating, saying Cube's the type of man who handles things quietly but effectively. Some fans even joke that Aries might want to stay off the grid for a while because Cube doesn't play when it comes to his name. And then, just when it seemed like things were cooling down, a video resurfaced of Cube talking about loyalty and respect in the game, and people were sure that was a subtle message to Aries. The timing was way too perfect to be a coincidence. Now, let's not forget, 50 Cent and Ice Cube have always had kind of a mutual respect. They're both hustlers, businessmen, and they both came from rough beginnings but built something powerful. So when 50 stood up for Cube, it wasn't just friendly protection. It was about honoring someone who helped shape the culture. And that's what had fans cheering. Comments were flying in saying that's real brotherhood and 50 always protects the legends. But others were saying 50 didn't need to jump in at all, that Cube could handle himself. And honestly, both sides have a point, but if you've been following 50 for a while, you know he never misses a chance to check someone when they cross the line. Aries Spears, though, kept running with it. He went live later talking about how everyone's too sensitive and that nobody should get mad over jokes, but his tone didn't sound like comedy anymore, it sounded like frustration. You could tell he didn't expect the backlash to hit that hard. Especially when Ice Cube fans started digging through Aries' old interviews and posting clips where he made similar jokes about other celebrities. The internet doesn't forget, and once they start pulling receipts, it's over. Comment sections turn brutal, with people saying Aries needs to apologize or just stop talking altogether. But things took a turn when Tiffany Haddish's name got pulled back into the mix. Some folks started pointing out that Aries Spears should be focusing on cleaning up his old controversies rather than starting new ones. Others even mentioned that Ice Cube has always kept it respectful with everyone, even when people tried to come at him, and that shows real maturity. Because Cube has been in this game for decades and barely ever gets caught up in mess like this. So when he finally did respond indirectly, it hit different. Ice Cube posted a photo on his Instagram, no caption, no long statement, just him in the studio with a simple line under it, "Still working." And fans went wild. That's the kind of energy Cube has. He doesn't need to clap back with words, he lets his presence speak. People were commenting things like, "That's how legends move," and "Aries who? Cube's too busy building empires." But deep down, everyone knew Cube saw the talk. He just chose the high road, the powerful silence that says everything without saying a word. But 50 Cent wasn't done. He made another post later that basically told Aries Spears, "If you want attention, go perform. Stop playing with people who gave you the lane to even speak." That right there sent the internet into another spiral. Some people called it bullying, others said it was well-deserved. But either way, it had everyone watching closely to see what Aries would say next. And this is where it started to get darker, because suddenly Aries Spears stopped posting about it. No more jokes, no more interviews mentioning Ice Cube, just silence. Almost like someone told him to cut it out. And honestly, I don't blame him. You can talk about a lot of people, but you don't play with certain names in hip-hop. Ice Cube is one of those names. From the days of NWA, Friday, Boys in the Hood, to founding the Big Three Basketball League, Cube has done it all. He's a businessman, an artist, a father, and a cultural icon. And while Aries Spears may have thought he was being funny, there are moments where funny crosses into disrespect. And that's where things went left. But the story doesn't stop there, because this whole thing made people start talking about how comedians used to be untouchable, how they could joke about anything. But now the rules are changing. And that's the debate that's got Hollywood divided. Some say comedy should always push boundaries, others say it's time to grow up and show some respect. And you better believe this Ice Cube and Aries Spears drama just added more fuel to that fire. So don't move, because the deeper we go, the more connections in history start popping up, and you won't believe who else got dragged into this before it was over. Now let's get deeper into what really started to shift the energy after Aries Spears went quiet. When Aries stopped posting, people thought it was over. But here's where the story takes an unexpected twist. Because while Aries was trying to stay low-key, Ice Cube started moving in ways that had everyone talking. See, when Cube goes silent, he's not ignoring the noise. He's observing, calculating, and deciding how he wants to respond. Not with words, but with moves. And that's exactly what happened. Out of nowhere, Ice Cube appeared on Big Boy's radio show, and the first thing fans noticed was how calm and confident he looked. Big Boy asked him about all the noise online, and Cube didn't dodge the question. He just smiled and said, "Man, I don't worry about clowns. I'm too busy doing real business." That one line broke the internet. Fans were screaming in the comments saying Cube just ended the whole beef without even raising his voice. That's the kind of power that comes when you've earned real respect. But 50 Cent wasn't done backing his guy. After that interview dropped, 50 posted a clip from it with the caption, "That's why you don't play with OGs. They don't argue, they just win." And that was the moment everyone knew. Aries Spears was done for. His reputation had already been shaky, but now it looked like his own peers were distancing themselves from him too. Other comedians even started speaking out, saying Aries needed to chill with the negativity and start focusing on making people laugh again. And here's the thing. Aries Spears used to be one of the funniest comedians out there. His impressions of rappers, his sketches, people loved them. But somewhere along the line, he turned bitter. Every time he popped up in interviews, he was either shading someone or bringing up how he never got his flowers in Hollywood. And while that frustration might be real, turning it into public shade against people like Ice Cube or 50 Cent, that's career suicide. Because those men aren't just rappers or actors, they're cultural pillars. You don't try to embarrass legends and expect the internet to side with you. And speaking of the internet, they went wild. Fans started flooding Aries' old comedy clips, commenting things like, "You should have stayed funny, not messy," and "Ice Cube made history, you made headlines for drama." It got so bad that some of his videos started getting downvoted, and his live shows reportedly had weaker ticket sales after all this drama blew up. And let's be honest, that's not surprising. Nobody wants to support negativity when it's directed towards someone the whole community loves. But what made things worse was when rumors started spreading that Aries Spears tried reaching out to 50 Cent privately to clear the air. People claimed that he wanted to explain that it was all jokes and that he didn't mean any disrespect. But here's where it gets icy. 50 never responded. Not a text, not a post, not a word. And if you know 50, you know that silence from him can be louder than a whole diss track. That's when Aries realized he messed up with the wrong crew. Now, while this was happening, Ice Cube wasn't wasting a single second. He was out there announcing new movie projects, expanding the Big Three League, and even talking about giving more opportunities to black filmmakers and creators. That right there showed the difference. While Aries Spears was trending for drama, Ice Cube was trending for success. And that contrast made the story even more powerful, because it reminded everyone that staying focused and keeping your integrity always wins over chasing headlines. But here's the moment that made everyone stop and say, wow. A few weeks later, a clip surfaced from a private event where Ice Cube was seen chatting with 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg, and LL Cool J. Someone in the crowd yelled out, "Cube, you gonna respond to Aries Spears?" And Cube just laughed, shook his head, and said, "Man, I don't fight down." The whole room erupted in cheers, and that line became another viral moment. I don't fight down. People started repeating it like a mantra. It wasn't just a clapback, it was a message to everyone watching. That's the thing about Ice Cube. He doesn't need to prove himself anymore. His career speaks for itself. From NWA to Friday, Barbershop, Are We There Yet, Ride Along, and beyond, the man has done it all. He's respected by rappers, actors, and even executives because he stayed true to himself. So when Aries Spears tried to tear that down, he only ended up exposing his own bitterness. And as for 50 Cent, he turned the whole moment into a power play. A few days later, he made a post saying, "This is what happens when you forget who built the road you're walking on." It wasn't even tagged, but everyone knew who he was talking about. The internet lit up again with memes, reactions, and fans dragging Aries Spears for thinking he could clown a legend. But here's what really drove the point home. Tiffany Haddish was spotted at an event, and when a reporter asked her about the situation, she just said, "I got love for both of them, but respect is respect." She didn't take sides, but that one sentence said enough. It showed that even people who worked closely with Aries knew that this one went too far. As the days went by, Aries Spears tried to shift the narrative. He went on another podcast and said the industry was full of fake loyalty and that he's the only one brave enough to tell the truth. But by then, people weren't buying it. They saw it as damage control. The man who once made the world laugh was now making excuses, and it was hard to watch. Even some of his supporters started saying he needed to take a break and reevaluate how he moves. And while Aries was out there trying to rebuild his image, Ice Cube was doing interviews about his new business ventures. He talked about ownership, independence, and creating spaces where artists don't have to beg anyone for a seat at the table. It was the complete opposite of drama. It was leadership. And that's why people love Cube. Because instead of wasting time on petty fights, he stays focused on legacy. And that brings us to now, where things have quieted down on the surface, but the tension still lingers underneath. People haven't forgotten what was said. They haven't forgotten how 50 Cent came through and reminded everyone that you don't mess with legends. And most of all, they haven't forgotten how Ice Cube handled it, with grace, power, and calm confidence.